It's no one's fault for not knowing about the Tuskegee Airmen. There's just not that much information out there. My dad was in the Army Air Corps, and as a kid, I knew that. But I didn't even know he was an actual pilot. He was a mechanic for the 99th Pursuit Squadron when he initially enlisted in 1941. Then from there, he became a pilot and was assigned to the 302nd Fighter Group in November of 1944. He was moved to the 100th Fighter Squadron in February of 1945, and he flew with the 100th until April as the European theater was ending. Initially, I couldn't get many stories out of my dad. He just wouldn't talk about his experience in World War II and the Korean War. Finally, when I was about 14 years old, after prodding him, I finally got some stories out of him, and they were very interesting. The only problem is I didn't have any history books to match up his stories to. I just couldn't find anything to corroborate his stories in history books at that time. As a young adult, about 20 years old or so, I started delving into the topic of the Tuskegee Airmen. The more I researched, the more I realized I actually didn't know anything about the Tuskegee Airmen. One day that kept popping out was 24 March 1945. He was on a mission that day. There's entries in his pilot logbook about that day. In the two movies that I've seen about the Tuskegee Airmen, one is called The Tuskegee Airmen. It was an HBO movie released back in 1995. And the more recent George Lucas movie called The Red Tails that was released in 2012. They reference a day when they flew one of the longest missions, and it was called the Berlin Mission. On that mission, the Tuskegee Airmen were awarded the Distinguished Unit Citation. So I'm here to share some of the research that I've uncovered and some of the stories that my dad told me when I was a kid. If you like the content, help out by hitting that share, subscribe, or like button.